This is the JCON Report, Part 1.
Welcome to the Foojay Podcast, all your news about OpenJDK.
On May 13th and 14th, Foojay attended the JCON conference in Köln, Germany, where we did over 30 live stream interviews. In this episode, we present to you the first set of these interviews, in which we focus on celebrating 30 years of Java, how you can grow your career, become a public speaker and writer, make your code more green, a bit of AI, of course, and how the connections between open source contributors can be visualized. Let's start with Richard Fichtner, one of the organizers of the JCON conference. As they give away many free conference tickets to members of Java user groups, I asked him how JCON is involved in the Java community.
We are here in Cologne, Germany for JCON Europe. There is other JCONs, for example, from the 28th to the 30th of May. You can go to JCON Slovenia, which is in Portorož in Slovenia. It's run by the user group, the local user group there. They use the JCON brand. And there will be also a JCON in Orlando, Florida in October. So if you want to enjoy some sunny weather and join us at the IBM Tech Exchange conference with 10,000 other attendees, there is a JCON track with Java community content to enjoy for you.
Not only conference, also magazine?
Yes, of course. And of course, there's the Java Pro magazine. The Java Pro is a partner of JCON, and there is a printed magazine that will arrive hopefully shortly here at the conference with a special edition on 30 years of Java. So with a lot of articles and knowledge around this great anniversary.
A lot of people can come to the conference for free, as you have tickets together with JUGs. What's the idea behind this free track, the free tickets?
So this was actually Markus Katz's idea from the Java Pro magazine. He's also one of the organizers, and he is a father of JCON. Basically, he had the idea to have JCON, and he had to convince me to do the conference before we started all that. And his idea was to bring in the Java community and to give away free tickets for Java user group members, because we feel that we compete with YouTube, and we think it's worth coming here. And for a lot of people, that's not so easy because they have spent money for travel and then also for the conference, and they have to convince their employers to let them go. So we try to make it easy for the Java community to join this year and to provide free tickets for Java user group members.
Really community things, you also have the mentoring. Is it a bit the idea to have a closer connection between the guests and the speakers?
Yes, absolutely. We have the mentorship hub. Bruno Souza was so kind to bring that over. This is his concept, his idea, to have mentoring here at the conference with speakers and Java champions. And also we have one-to-one meetings. So if you want to get in touch with somebody, you can use that. And if you are more on the introverted side of things, we also use a system called Slido to ask questions. So you don't have to raise your hand in a room full of like 200 people and ask a question, but you can do it with your phone, and then people can upvote the questions for the speaker, so the speaker can answer the questions that get the most votes.
Richard mentioned that a vital sidetrack during the JCON conference was the Mentoring Hub, an initiative by Bruno Souza, known as the Brazil Java Man. Bruno explains the goal of this mentoring and how it can help evolve someone's career.
Here's what happens in our careers, right? So when you get to a certain level, it's hard to move up. It's hard to know what to do, right? Because the developer career is very unique for each person, right? So it depends what you do, depends on the technology that you work with, depends on the things you're doing. And so when you get to a certain point, you need some help, right? That's what we're doing. We're getting people that have been doing those things, people that have been, working on projects, working on growing beyond senior, for example, achieving higher career goals, build their own companies, and we're bringing them here so developers can come in and they can talk to someone that have done that, and so then you have some real guidance from real people to do the next step in your career.
People may know the Dilbert principle. You grow in your career until you reach a level of
incompetence. Right? Yes.
So that's a real danger, that you get promoted until you become a manager, and maybe you don't want to be that manager. Mm-hmm. How to avoid this?
Well, you know what? That's very funny because you mentioned that principle, because I heard of that principle when I was a teenager, because I got a book from my father and I was looking at that, and I thought it was a joke. right? All my career I thought just, it was a joke book, right? And it's really. But one thing that I've done in my career, for example, is that I've been avoiding the incompetence level. Right. Basically, if it is a place that I don't want to go, is not something that I don't really want to excel, because a lot of people get to that level because they're promoted to something that they don't want to do. Because it's not actually. I don't agree with the idea of the incompetence level. It's actually more what you want to do or not. Because if it is something that you want to do, you're going to learn how to do it. Right. You're going to be good at that. But the problem is that people are promoted to a place where they don't want to be, they don't want to go, and then they don't want to grow in that place. And so I think that's a good way to do it. Is if that is a place you don't want to go, don't go there, right? You might be afraid. That's a different thing. You might be afraid. You might not know exactly what that means. And if you want to do it, and you just don't think that you can do it, or you're afraid of doing it, then you can get help from someone. That's why we talk a lot about mentorships, right? Because you get help from a mentor that is going to help you succeed on that next level. But if you are, if it's something that you don't want to do, and let me give an example. For example, right? So at one point, I'm a partner in a consulting company, right, in Brazil, and at one point, the guy that used to be the owner of the company, he wanted me to be like the country manager in Brazil. And I told him, I said, I don't want to do this. And he said, no, I'm going to help you. And I said, I'm not going to be good at this. He said, no, but I'll teach you. And so then I said, look, if you really wanted me to do this, the problem is that if I do it, I don't want to do it, and I'm going to break the company. And he said, okay, so let's not do it, right? And then he said, he tried one last time, and he said, but Bruno, if I do that, I'm going to have to hire, if you don't do this, I'm going to have to hire someone to be your boss, and it's going to make more money than you. And I said, that's great, because he's going to do something that I don't want to do it, right? And we did hire this person, and he's awesome. He's amazing. So he has done the things that I would never want to do, right? And some of those things are like the daily work, right? But some of the things are, outside of work. So, for example, when you're working in a consulting company and you're working with big customers, then you have to go eat dinner with those guys, right? You have to go play golf with them, right? You have to go smoke cigars, right? Those are things I don't want to do. Right? And I would not do it. And so I would be a terrible country manager if I was doing those kind. If I had to do those things, then I would not want to do it. And so and that's, I like this example because that shows that certain positions require you to do things that you don't want to do. And so if you don't want to do, don't go in those places, right? Don't. Now, there are other ways for you to grow where you are, and I think that's the important thing. So don't get stuck in doing something just because you like it, and you never want to do something else, because there are ways, right? So there's lots of different. Actually, I'm going to do a mentoring today about growing beyond senior, where we talk about the 5 paths for you to grow beyond senior level positions, right? And many of those paths are not manager.
Yeah, because in a lot of companies, you can only grow beyond a certain senior point in changing to a team leader or a manager. But if you really love the development stuff, in some companies, you end up at some blocked position and you cannot grow any longer. Is there a way to solve that within a company, or do you need to change jobs in many circumstances?
So when we talk about growing beyond senior, there's five levels, let's say, 5 paths, not levels, 5 different paths. The first one is what I call the people path, right? That's the one you mention a lot, right? The manager, right? That you're going to manage people. So you're going to be a manager, you're going to be a director, you're going to be a VP. So that's the people path. The second one I like to call the technical path. And that's when you become a staff plus, right? So you become an individual contributor. So then you can go to staff, you can go to like a principal engineer, distinguished engineer. The technical path is where you grow technically, and you have more responsibilities technically, but you don't manage people, right? And so those 2 paths are interesting because they are equivalent, right? So a staff position is equivalent to a manager, a principal position is equivalent to a director, and a distinguished position equivalent to a vice president. So they're equivalent in responsibility and even salaries, but the technical path, you don't manage anyone, right? So that's the second path. The third path is what I call the community path. Right, is to do things like you're doing, for example. Right, is that you become you become a technical person inside the non-technical area of the company. So you're the technical person inside marketing, or the technical person inside HR, or the technical person inside sales, or the technical person inside which one I'm missing? HR, marketing, sales, DevRel, right? Whatever. So then you become the technical person inside a non-technical area of the company, and that's really interesting because it's very autonomous, right? You have lots of autonomy, and very visible. You know, like for example, right? You're probably one of the most visible persons inside Azul, for example, right? Because you're doing this community work, right? And so that's the third path. The last two paths are very independent paths, right? One is what I call the independent path, right? So that you become an independent professional, right? So a consultant or a freelancer, instructor, right? So you're gonna do you sell yourself as a product, let's say, right? And the last one is what I call the entrepreneurship path. Is that you participate in building a company, and then basically you sell a product instead of a company. So all 5 paths for you to grow beyond senior. And now what I want to mention about those things is that if you think about the first 3 paths, they necessarily happen inside a company, right? Because you have to have a position like this. And now when you think about it, is that companies only have the managed path, and that is not true. The thing is, those positions are, all of them, including managers, they're very autonomous. They're very unique positions. And so you have to find your space inside your company to do that. And that's what I think is hard many times, because there's no one telling you what to do. There's no one showing you how to go that path. And so when you, now answering your question, right, what do I do if my company doesn't have that path? Build it, right? Because that's the point. Those are very autonomous positions. So if you don't go and build that path, then no one's going to build that path for you.
So it's really up to you yourself to decide, this is what I love to do, and this is what I want to do in the next years, and then push it some way into either your company, your own company, or in the company you work for.
Right, you know, you can find your company, or you can look for another company if you need to, right? That does happen in certain companies that things are very, very rigid, for example, then there's no way to do it, right? But I find this very rare. You know, I've mentored lots of people to actually go find those things, and the reality is that in the vast majority of companies, they want you to stay, right? Actually, one thing that I say is that, you know, your first responsibility in your company is to want to stay. Have you ever thought about that? You know, we think that our first responsibility is to do the code, is to solve the problems, but no. The first, as a professional, you should work in a way that you want to stay in your company, because if you leave, that's very complicated for your company. I'm not saying that you should never leave. That's a different thing, right? But you should want to stay. So you should negotiate your salary. You should negotiate what you do. You should negotiate who you work with. You should negotiate your position, because you should want to stay in the company. Because if we don't want to stay, we should not be working for that company to begin with, right? And so that's the point. So when you look at your company, think about, what do I need to do to want to stay? And go negotiate. You know, developers a lot of times are afraid of negotiation because they think that negotiation is like, oh, I have to, it's salary. It's only salary. It's not only salary. Everything is a negotiation, right? But then, you know, people think that a negotiation is me taking something out of you. And that's not. A negotiation is that we have a common problem, and we have to organize, even in small things. So for example, me and you, right? Before I stopped by here, said, let's do a interview. And I said, I can't do right now because I have something to do. And so we negotiated, right? When can you do it? A little bit, not now, maybe tomorrow. So we negotiate. Why? Because we have a common problem. You know, you want to do the podcast. I want to be interviewed, right? So we have a common problem. So we have to negotiate and find something that we can do it together. And so in a negotiation, right, in your company, is the same thing. Your boss wants you to stay, because if you leave, there's a big problem. You want to stay because you like the company, because they pay well. But maybe there's another company paying you more, that offer you more. So you have to negotiate, right? Or maybe you're doing something in your company that's not the best thing for you. So you have to negotiate, so you want to stay. And so that's our first thing we got to do. And so negotiate. And that's one thing I tell everyone, because I've coached many developers to actually achieve those positions inside their companies, because they want to stay, and the company doesn't have a way for them to stay, and so they negotiate. I have actually a very interesting case. Is even in my book. I have a tiny little book called "The Best Developer Job Ever," and that's the story of a mentee of mine that he really liked his company where he was, but he did not see a way to grow inside his company, right? And so he started looking for alternatives, and then, but I told him, I said, no, you should negotiate, right? So he talked to his boss, and he said, look, I'm looking for some things, and there's some offers, but I would like to stay. And they told him, said, if you want to stay, we want you to stay. So they built a new department, an innovation department, and he was the head of the innovation department just so he could do what he wanted to do because he was so valuable for the company. And so your company might have something like this, but you have to negotiate, you have to talk to people.
So if you know what you want, and you really have to ask for it. And that's what you're teaching in these mentorships. So I will do a mentorship about writing about your work, like for instance for Foojay, or writing a book.
Let's tell you one thing here. Writing is one of the most important skills you can build for your career, because lots of people think that I need to learn how to think, and you think that you think when you think, but in reality you only think when you externalize. So you only think when you write, when you speak, right? When you present. So writing is the best way for you to think.
Indeed, you have to understand the topic before you can create a condensed example for a blog or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you need any help in terms of growing your career, I wrote with Heather Van Kura a book called the Developer Career Master Plan. And so if you go right now to careermasterplan.dev, you can get the first chapter for free for the book. It teaches you how learning and how to acquire skills in the first chapter. It's a pretty good idea. And then when you do that, you're going to get my email and my contact. So if you need any help, just message me and I'll help you out.
One of the mentoring volunteers at JCON is Markus Westergren, who has a lot of great tips to grow your career.
My topic is to go from being a silent coder, working on your own, to sharing what you know, to be able to progress in your career and also help other people in the community.
Being a silent developer is, I think, a very difficult topic for a lot of people, is stepping out. You can be a main contributor to the application of your company without most of the people knowing it. How do you fix this?
It's a hard subject because many of us developers don't really feel comfortable being in the spotlight. So I was one of those. And the sad truth is we need to challenge ourselves, but also do it in small steps, so we don't do it too much at once.
We had Bruno here, who is organizing these mentoring sessions, so he has his plan of becoming the next step after being a senior developer. So you are handling the topic before that. What are some of your main tips to become that noticed senior developer?
Actually do the things, but get a mentor that can help you get to where you want to go. You need to know where you want to go, but having somebody who knows the road, it's making it much easier than just fumbling about on your own.
And how do you find a mentor? Do you need to look inside your own company? Do you need to go into the community?
I think both. We have lots of resources where we work. So finding a more senior person or somebody who did something you want to do and just ask them. But a conference like this, going here in person and actually talking to people, it's a really good thing.
Yeah. So we have the mentoring sessions here. Can I find a mentor online somewhere?
Yeah, definitely. We all follow people that have information that's fun. For instance, Foojay. Lots of people who have experience. So just engaging with them could be a good first start.
Yeah, we have the Foojay Slack. So a lot of the Foojay authors are there, also other people of the community. I started writing a book 5 years ago and just reached out to some of my heroes, asking, can I ask you a few questions for an interview? All of these people are very, very open to speaking, to helping others. So is that your same feeling that you just ask it?
Definitely. And most people who are at conferences want to meet and talk to people, even the most famous ones. Somebody said once that speakers are just people with opinions, like everybody else, but they just choose to tell them to others. So they're just people, like everybody else.
So the hallway track, as they call it, is the most important one?
I would say so now. I didn't do that from the first, when I started going to conferences. I packed a day full of sessions. I need to figure the whole day, busy. And then I was completely exhausted afterwards. But now, later years, I handpick a few sessions that looks interesting. But then mostly I spend my time in the hallways.
I once heard the tip, if you go to a conference or a JUG, a Java user group, you should not talk to the people you already know. Is that something that's very scary for a lot of people, but is it a good tip?
I would say so, especially if you go with colleagues. You can be together for part of the day, but make sure you take time to go around and meet new people. And also, if you do go to a conference, for instance, here in Germany, as a group from a German company, make sure you speak English even to your colleagues, because it's very hard for a non-German speaking person to get into that group. You will never go there and talk to them.
Are you also attending a few of the other sessions? I know you take time to speak to people, but do you attend sessions?
Definitely I do. And I try to go to people I haven't heard from before. So even if you have the really superstar speakers like Josh Long or Venkat or these people, if you went to several of these people's sessions, there's kind of the same things they say over and over. So the interesting thing is to go to another speaker's session, maybe on the same subject, but then they will hear their part and their experiences on the subject, and you will maybe learn something new.
I heard once that it's a good thing if a room is packed and you have to pick another one right at the spot. So you want to enter a room and it's packed, so you have to go another one. Most of the times, that's the most interesting session of the day.
Definitely, I think so. And just go beyond your current comfort zone and go and listen to something completely different.
For Brian Vermeer, the so-called hallway track is the most important one. He makes the hallway and the exhibitor hall his place of residence at every conference.
It's an old saying. It's not what you know, it's who you know, or it's also who you know. And to get these connections back and keep these relationships up to speed, I think that is so important to create collaborations. But also, if you don't know something, there's always somebody in this network that knows how to solve certain things. If it's a technical issue or a specific framework issue or something like that. So that this is why these connections are so important, because it makes my work easier.
It makes your work easier. It's also a tool to grow your career for most people, I learned. So asking people how to grow your career is also an important topic here.
I think so. I think it's undervalued in a lot of companies that conferences are a great way to grow your career, because it's not, the content is great, don't get me wrong, like that's primarily why you come, but talking to people and getting new insights on how to solve certain problems, like-minded people which might have the same problems or have a different solution to a certain problem, you can talk along with them. But also, if you know certain people from a certain specific mindset or specific subject matter expertise, let's say that, I know where to go next time if I need the security guy, or I need the Spring Boot guy, or like, hey, if I need the Spring Boot guy, I'm currently friends with Josh, and like I'm just giving him a call, or he can point me to the right direction. Also, like I need something from, like I'm working with IBM technology, and I know people there, so like who is the right person to connect with them, because we have a problem with it and I don't understand it, which is fine. But because of that, you start to learn people. But also, if you want to grow your career or move, like you at least know people to move yourself, because I think most of these opportunities come by conversation and not by application, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I think it's a great way to grow your career.
Another great way, so it's joining conferences. It's also joining JUGs. I think you have something that you are involved in some JUGs.
Yes, I am. I'm involved with the NLJUG, the Netherlands Java User Group. We, for instance, we create and organize two of the major conferences in the Netherlands. But next to that, we do some other things as well. But I think for JUGs and JUG meetings, or however a JUG is situated, not all JUGs do meetups. I think it's great to connect on that level as well, because it's just a smaller setting, so it's easier to have a conversation, and I think that is valuable. Conversations like this, are very valuable, not to only showcase what you are doing, but also and inspire other people, but also the other way around, because I'm talking to people like, oh, that is actually a cool thing to do. I want to play with that, but can you help me start out? So it makes my technical skill better, which is an improvement for my career, but also because I know people, if there are opportunities and they know like, hey, I need somebody with expertise X, Y, or Z, maybe I should ask that person. So it's just like, hey, if I need somebody to renovate my house, I'm not going on the internet to find out who is the best contractor. I probably will ask my family or my neighbors, like, hey, who did the job at your place because it looks great. I think it's similar to that.
Next to the conference, the JUG, with the NLJUG, you also have a magazine, a paper magazine, the same for JCON. They also have this magazine. Is this still relevant, paper, in these current days?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it is, because it is offline, as in you don't need a screen. You can take it with you. Like we make always a joke, like you can read it on a toilet. And I'm not taking you can take your phone to the toilet, but I'm not taking my laptop to the toilet, if you know what I mean. But I think it's easier to read. You just grab it and you read an article. And I think, on the other hand, it's also good for people to start with sharing, start writing, have a printed thing, like you feel you actually achieved something. I know my first articles in Java Magazine, I still have it. I still have the physical edition, and it's just memorabilia now, but it's a thing for me, like, hey, I did this. So it's from different angles. I think it's still relevant. Yes.
How should people start contributing to the magazine or to a JUG or to conference? How can they get into this world of what we see here, becoming a public speaker or an author of articles?
I think it's it depends on what you want. Like, writing is not for everybody. Speaking is not for everybody. Some people are more, say, in creating videos or more into writing instead of speaking, or the other way around. So figure out what you want. That's one thing. But I think it starts with attending. I think things with attending and asking questions and being interactive. It's just like if you're going into a talk, and you don't have to do it publicly, but say afterwards to the speaker, like, I have a question. If you actually have a question, dare to ask it to the speaker, because they want to connect with you as well. And that's how you contribute. Like, with that question, you already contributed, and you can move from there, because, like, talk to new people. Like, hey, what do you think of this? Or if there's already a conversation going, maybe you can go into that conversation and give your opinion on things. And it doesn't need to be big or brutal. It can be like, yeah, I agree. I think so. We have the same thing. And that makes you grow your community. And then if you did something, like, I think everybody is able to create a blog post or even a conference talk. Start small. Start, for instance, at meetups. Like, share whatever you did and why that is relevant to everybody else. And it can be something that is either new, but it can also be an old technology. But you have probably a specific use case, and that makes it interesting, because it's your use case, your problem, and how you solved it, in what conditions. That make people think like, okay, so this can be a good solution, or maybe like, we shouldn't be doing that because whatever. So I think everybody's personal story and personal angle to a story can be a blog post, a video, a thing, you can, or a talk, and you can share that and start small and grow your posture and grow your audience, I guess.
And you can also share on Foojay, of course.
Even if you already have written something for your personal blog or your company blog or something like that, it's a great way to repost this on Foojay to make sure that it gets more attention.
I want to go back to asking a question. So at the end of a talk, people in the audience can ask questions. A lot of people don't feel comfortable doing so. But as you say, just go up to the speaker after the talk and ask it directly.
That's one way of doing that. Obviously, like here at JCON, they use Slido, which is probably a good way to do it more anonymous. But I would say go after the talk, go to the speaker, or like if most speakers are around for the full conference, go to the speaker afterwards. Maybe not like right after the talk, but maybe a few hours later or tomorrow. It's fine. Or connect with the speaker on one of the social media platforms. Everybody is on Blue Sky or the other platform with the bird, or Mastodon or LinkedIn, and feel free. Like, hey, I saw your talk at JCON. I have a question. Like, how do you solve X or Y? And most of the people will be more than happy to help you out, and that's a connection.
Aicha Laafia came to JCON to present a talk about greener, sustainable coding. Shouldn't we all be worried more about how our work impacts the environment? Can we be better developers by creating greener applications? But above all, Aicha was probably the most enthusiastic Java lover I met during the conference.
I'm a Java lover. Like, I drink Java, I work with Java. I wish I live in Java.
Yeah, that's a nice goal for life. And you have a talk. So what's the talk about?
It's about Green Cloud, how to implement sustainable Java application in a more like greener cloud. It's more practical, like the practice you can do as coding in Java. And if you want to go more advanced, you want to deploy it, how you can really manage your resources in Kubernetes, like some tips and hacks, how to do so.
So as a Java developer, I can use certain techniques, programming systems in Java to make it more green?
Actually, yes, because mainly we are talking about clean code, and it's the first step into the green code. Because clean code can make your application more maintainable, but green code can make it more sustainable. And this is why, like, it's simple. Like, you can use some algorithms that use less power and less CPU over it, less cycle, and so on. Also, you can go for, this is my first one, the JVM. You need to make sure your JVM is not using like many resources. You can start with choosing the right garbage collector for your use case, or even tweak some JVM options and so on. There are really some simple steps you can do that can like make your application more sustainable. Because for the fact, our tech industry contributes to 4% of greenhouse gas emissions. And with AI and so on, it's going like up.
Crazy.
Yes, and this is why and as a developer, we cannot really go to the stakeholders to tell them, well, we need to make sure that we are using more like friendly environment resources. But as a developer, we can make sure our code of lines are efficient, are greener.
This is a bit of an eye-opener for me. So I was thinking, yeah, I can make sure my environment is green because I only use the servers that I need. I use them to the maximum. What is, for instance, the impact of the garbage collector? How can the garbage collector be greener?
Actually, it depends. If you want something more like in real time, we want to make sure that the POSIX time are low. You can use Shenandoah. I love Shenandoah because it doesn't matter what the memory size you have. It always makes sure you have the lowest POSIX time. And if you are more something like Apache is high throughput, you can work with parallel GC. It's already even this. Otherwise, if you don't know where to start with, first thing first, start with having a GDK that's 21 or more, because you have G1 GC by default, which is good, idle for real-time application, and it also have low POSIX time, because the longest the POSIX time they are, the more energy we are going to waste for the machine to have to work when it doesn't do anything, really more efficient, and so on. So this is why you have first thing to do is choose the right garbage collection. Second thing is you don't have to rely on the JVM default settings. You can tweak some, for example, the percent of the target that the heap using. We have a lot of settings we can do or how many mixed GC you want, how many mixed garbage collection you want to use running your code and so on. You can customize this.
So I also hear that you say the version is important. So if I cannot change my code, if I bump to a newer runtime, I switch from 17 to 21, will that already make a difference?
Yes, because we already we will have advanced garbage collection, and that's something I really loved about Java, because they know the impact of the garbage collection, and the garbage collection itself, the old one wasn't doing some really good job. wasn't clean enough, because virtual, you can say, garbage matters too, and they are making sure that it's more advanced, it's more like cleaning, more greener too. And also for the fact that some, we can say, some real features, for example, virtual treats helps to structured streets, that's much better, because even virtual treats, it's a good, but if you are using it only for example, calculating methods or monolithics, don't use it, please. Yes, better use structured concurrency. It's way better because virtual treats have a long time, a long waiting time, and that's on. Like, actually, and also for records too, they are greener than relying on the classic class methods or class entities and so on. So for me, the better use the latest feature in Java, because they are paying attention to sustainability too.
What people maybe forget is if you make a greener application, you also reduce the cost. You don't need not that much pots. So is this a technique to sell this approach to your manager?
Actually, yes, because when people talk about green programming, stakeholders often think we are going to cut resources, we're going to reduce the number of customers. When it's the opposite, we're going on scale, we're reducing the cost of electricity, of like the CPU and so on. Even machines right now, instead of relying on traditional one, we're going on the cloud. We even like reducing the cloud bills and so on. So this is why you can say that sustainable application saves the environment in your pockets too.
Baruch Sadogursky is also a big Java lover and has been using it since one of the early versions. And he's looking back at the history and evolution of the Java system and how it compares to Kotlin. And we also discussed how our jobs are changing because of the ongoing AI evolutions.
It's very exciting to be at JCON on their 20th anniversary and celebrating 30 years of Java. Boy, are we old.
Please speak for yourself. But yeah, I was not born in Java. I mean, I discovered it, let's say, 15 years ago. I think Java 7, 8 maybe. You have a longer history. Where did you start with Java?
Java 1.3. 1.3, it's the year 2000.
Compare 1.3 with 25. What's the biggest difference to you?
It's all the same. Nothing really changed. No, I'm just kidding. I think that the two kind of fundamental changes are the Java 5, the generics, and this kind of stuff, and then the streaming and collection was Java 9. Reactive, and now, well, I said 2, 3, and now the virtual threads. I would say those are the ones that change the language entirely. And then Kotlin, so we don't need to write Java at all. For a long time, Groovy and then Kotlin were the much more friendlier alternatives that actually guaranteed, even I can say, a more productive development for Java developers. You almost don't need to learn anything else. But now Java is catching up, so we'll see if Kotlin will keep the pace and will keep the lead, or will Java catch up in the next 30 years?
Oh wow, you're looking forward for 30 more years. You have a talk?
Yeah, I just finished. I spoke about enchantfication, technical enchantfication, basically how everything is terrible. That was like the majority of my talk. We just ranted with the audience about how everything terrible. And then in the last 10 minutes, we spoke about how we're going to fix everything.
And the solution is?
The solution is a combination of going back to basics, stuff like Agile and DevOps in their purest forms, not like the cargo call that we're doing with Scrum and DevOps teams, but what the principles stand for, a lot of developer productivity, and delegating concerns when possible. For example, for security, you can delegate to tax care.
Okay.
Yep.
A bit of selling.
Yes, yes. They paid my ticket to be here. Otherwise, you wouldn't have my company.
Indeed, thanks for that. A lot of evolution that you've seen in these 30 years. What's coming next? That's important.
Oh, we have a new revolution coming up, and that's we are jumping once more the level of abstraction. Java was definitely one of those jumps from the older languages like assembly and C, no, it's not. That was like one of those monumental shifts. And for that matter, Kotlin and Java and Groovy and .NET, they're all in the same category. They're all like the next level of abstraction. And now we are living through going even higher with AI, right? So prompt-driven development is the next level of abstraction. It's exactly the same. It's like people told Grace Hopper 50 years ago, no, computers don't understand English. You cannot use compilers. We hear exactly the same rant today. No, computers don't understand English. You cannot write your code with prompt. And this is as bullshit as it was there. They definitely can, and they will. Our job is changing. We will have completely different responsibilities, but we are definitely going up one level of abstraction more.
Will programming languages become obsolete?
As they didn't become obsolete with the previous evolution, they won't become obsolete right now. They are kind of pushed down to be not the top level of abstraction, but the second level, but they are still there. And especially until we can trust blindly the code that is generated by AI, and it's coming soon. It's coming very fast. But until then, we actually need this lower level of abstraction, but it's still very, very readable for us to make sure that AI does what we need it to do.
So we as developers will not lose our job?
If we adapt on time, if we pay attention to what's happening, if we get ourselves ready to this next level of abstraction, we won't. If we want to kind of be stubborn and backwards and be in denial, then we still won't. We'll just become, the dying breed. I would say, even if for now I just close my ear, close my eyes, and don't pay any attention to anything and want to be just Java developer for the next 10 years, I will still have this runaway. After that, maybe not so much. So we're definitely not going anywhere today. And if we adjust, pay attention, and being agile, then we're not going anywhere anytime soon at all. More so, the real professionals, the ones who adapt early and who adjust soon, will be even highly regarded than just any other developer that are there today.
Just like with all the tools, this is a tool you need to know, you need to understand, and know how to use it and integrate it in how you work your daily job.
Absolutely. And mastery and understanding becomes more important, not less.
Okay. Are you one of those people who focus on the hallway track and not on the tracks in the cinema rooms?
Yes. The talks are recorded. With AI, we can get a summary very quickly. We just can watch it in a higher speed, right? And then like save time on that. But the conversations in the hallway track are second to none. Obviously, there are not a lot of opportunities to meet all the amazing speakers and attendees that are here at JCON. So definitely hallway track. Yep.
Okay. And what did you learn in the hallway track?
There is a lot of talk about AI. Oof! Everybody
really?
About AI. Yeah, no, but I mean it's a good thing because that's what people really should focus on, and it's everywhere. And some of it is cargo cult, some of it is just like everybody do it. We need to do it too. But there is a lot of real discussion of what's next, and this is fascinating because what we kind of figure out today is what we're going to live tomorrow. And as I mentioned, the sooner you pay attention and get on this train, the better shape you will be. Yep.
Okay.
I have one more guest for you in this first series of JCON interviews. Dmitry Yanter gave a talk about open source projects and contributors.
I call it collaboration quantified. So my idea is a little bit to move from this collaboration, just like we describe, like good collaboration, bad collaboration, just put a little bit some numbers there and put some structures around that. So I analyzed data sources from different open source projects and build effective collaboration graph. For instance, if we work together on some pull request or Jira item, then we build a small graph between ourselves. And you can imagine for open source projects which have more than thousands of collaborators, they're just like quite an impressive interconnected graph, and how it looks like, and what we can take out of it, what ideas it brings.
Any tips related to that for smaller projects? So I'm involved myself in an open source project like by Foojay, which has only a few main contributors. How we can attract more contributors, maybe, or how we can improve collaboration there?
Well, so first of all, I would say, no matter whether it's big project or small project, you should come up with this core collaboration network. So even if there are 5 people in your project, you should build connections more or less with everyone. This gives you the core network, which is robust enough. And that becomes extremely important for project to grow. So for instance, if we're just working together on this project, if I leave or you leave, then it becomes really a dramatic effect for it. And that's why you have to build that network in order to really to survive in the long term. And it's super important to build connections between everyone. And that's what actually is happening, like on JCON, right, where we try to build connection between different people, not just like I'm leading the project and I tell you what to do. I take like only your pull request or whatever. So it really must be the network where everybody is interconnected. And what I see in looking into all these local running projects is like a chart where everyone is really super connected. Like it's almost a perfect graph where everyone is connected to everyone, and that's what makes project and what drives project forward. So not just about I know how to do it and you follow, but really bring ideas and bring people together and make sure that everyone is involved.
So how do you measure this involvement? That means that if someone makes a pull request, that the other partners in the team give feedback, take care of the merge requests. How do you measure how people are connected?
Yeah, that's quite a tricky thing. I started with a very simple thing as Jiras. And again, we have data sources with Jiras. And for instance, if I'm a reporter and you're a developer, then we connect. It's a very simple thing. You can do the same with pull requests. If I create a pull request and you're the approval of the pull request, it's awesome. And I try to do it really artifact evidence based, not just we talk and we measure like how many words we exchange, but some artifacts based like Jiras or pull requests or maybe commits. And that's also, then I apply some gravity logic here. So for instance, if we have together 10,000 of Jiras and some other person just like contribute one, then we are closely connected. It's like works as gravity, right? So the more interactions we have together, the closer we are. And that brings you like really like a solar system with the core network in the center, and people coming sometimes they come closer to the core because they contribute more, or they just like in some like far orbits. That's quite impressive.
Do you have a chart like that for OpenJDK, OpenJFX, those projects which are discussed here a lot?
No, I haven't. I have some for some other, for instance, for MongoDB or for Spring, or for Apache, and that's really quite interesting.
Spring is also a big one here, I guess. But yeah, OpenJDK could be quite a challenge. I think there are a lot of contributors there.
But that's great. That's actually how we can try to see how the things work, and that's sometimes that brings really a insightful understanding how your community works. Like who are the people in the core, and how you can bring people more, because that's also kind of like a part of your role as a core contributor, to bring more people and to attract more people to closer and build more connection. That's also becomes quite important for people in the core network to engage with others, and maybe sometimes you just have to introduce some new contributors to other people, and that's how you build connections and bring people together and make exchange of ideas, and really these artifacts and pull requests, and they top up into quite impressive interactions.
Yeah, isn't it amazing that you say OpenJDK Spring, they have hundreds, thousands of contributors, but that a lot of core libraries that we use are just 1-2 people maintaining some project?
That was one of the insights that I tried to a little bit to summarize. So if you look into super big projects, then the core network, where everyone is over-connected, I would say, just really literally have a lot of connections, you might have, for instance, 1 or 2% of the overall contributors networks, they are in the core. If you just look into some other projects which are not super big, which are maybe at scale of some hundreds of contributors, then it may be 5-6%. But nevertheless, it's really a very small number of people who work together to bring things forward. On the one hand side, on the other hand side, you have to look for others' contributions as well. And if you sum up contribution for, sometimes they close and not just they fix just a couple of bugs. But nevertheless, if you sum up the effort, it's really great. It's really enormous. So I did also some previous year some analysis around that, and I think if you compare like core contributors versus everyone which like non-core contributors, then it can be like 50-50. So people who just sometimes close just a few bugs or contribute to us a few features, overall effect is enormous.
Yeah, because for some people to decide if they gonna use a library or not, they check at the maturity of a library, how old is it, how well maintained is it, when was the last commit, but also the number of active committers is probably one of the topics which decides if a library gets used or not. So that's probably also one of the reasons why building up that network is so important.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's also when you think about this long-running libraries, they became more than just the like 1 or 2 people who created it. So they became really this collaborative effort, and it's like really a brain power put together with the synergies and ideas exchange. And that's probably why people use them. And that's why sometimes it's easier to use an existing thing rather than reinvent your own, just because of your mental capacity is limited. And if you compare what you can do within a year or two versus really hundreds of many years of thought put into some libraries, and that's quite impressive.
That's it for the first round. I have a lot more interviews for the following Foojay podcasts. A lot of tips and tricks about tools and programming, and of course also more AI discussions. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the Foojay podcast in your favorite app or on Foojay. Keep an eye on Foojay for future articles and podcasts about development and everything related to the Java world. See you next time.
Give me a foo, give me a J, give me the friends of OpenJDK.